Hello everyone, No Script Alex once again, and today I want to cover the 14.3 changes. I know it's been a while, this video should have been done and released 2 days ago, but the reason why it took so long to make is because I was never satisfied with the way I explain things. The thing is that this patch is really interesting in a sense that these changes are not simple like buff or nerf. They are both buff and nerf. They have some pros, they have some cons, so it's difficult to explain correctly and to know exactly if overall, in most situations, the change to Gunzio, the change to Kraken is a buff or a nerf. This is why I needed more time to test things out, to talk with other people, and to let myself like think about it for a bit before I could actually make the video. Now I feel like I understand enough the changes so I can explain at least better what's going on in 14.3. Alright, by the way, like I said before, I have no script. This is just me talking to the mic, so my voice might be a bit scuffed, but I'll try to be as slow as possible so everyone can understand. And by the way, if you like this type of content, make sure to subscribe. It helps me a lot. Alright, with that said, let's get started. So the first thing you can see with all of this is that there is no KAISA buff in 14.3. Once again, we're not getting buffed. The champion has 46% win rate, but yet still no buff. I guess if you want to know why, my best guess, although Red didn't say straight up why, but my best guess is that since KAISA is a champion that is really dependent on item and systems, since Riot is doing a lot of system changes, they don't want to buff the champion before everything comes out, so they're sure that when they buff KAISA, she is indeed in a weak state. So I guess that for any KAISA buff, we don't need to wait for all the system buff and nerf to come out, and then when it's more champion focused, at this point we will see maybe a KAISA buff, maybe 14.5, 14.4, who knows. But I don't believe that in 14.3, KAISA win rate will explode back to 49%. I still think that she's still in a bad spot, at least for the casual player base, and so 14.3 will not change anything. Maybe 14.3 will change a little bit, maybe it will increase the win rate by a bit, but I don't expect it to go like 48% win rate. I still expect it to stay around 46 for 47%. Alright. Enough with KAISA, I talked about it before, now let's go over the actual changes. The first change I want to mention here is the change to Kraken Slayer. So Kraken Slayer has changed quite a bit over the past couple of days, and currently Kraken Slayer gives you 40 AD, right now in the current patch it gives you 40 AD, 35% attack speed, 20 crit rate, and has a 65% AD ratio and 60% AP ratio. Now, in this version, there is simply 0 AD or AP ratio. Those have been removed. You only have a flat damage that scales with level. And it goes from, if I check, 140 to 310, basically. Now, if you're wondering if this is a buff, it's a nerf, at one item, it's a buff. When you first build Kraken Slayer, it's a buff. For a second item, it depends on what you're building. If you go for Terminus, or if you go for Bork, it's still a buff. It still does more. But if you build RB, or Rageblade, or if you build Navri, then it's a nerf, a second item. And obviously, for third item, it's a nerf every single time. So the pro is that it gives you a better punch in the laning phase because it gives you more damage, but the con is that it has no more scaling. That means that it has a worse scaling. That means that when you reach mid game to late game, it does less damage. I tested it on live. I tested it on my stream, and from my experience, at least from my games, I can feel the damage boost when I get the Kraken Slayer. I can feel it when I farm minions and when I attack enemies, so I can feel it. I don't really feel the DPS loss afterwards, although there is one here. But in my opinion, personally, I still think that this change is a buff, because KAISA really need early game really need early lane power, so having more damage as a first item is actually a really nice change. So personally, I think it's a buff. The damage you get early on outweighs the damage you lose later on. So that's just, it's not a big buff. It's not a big buff. You'll see this patch, they are only like a small buff. It's a small buff basically. This is a small buff, 100%. Okay, next up, let's talk about if Kraken got buffed, in my opinion, Stormrazor got nerfed. Now, let's talk about Stormrazor because this change, I don't understand why Riot made this change. I don't get it. So Stormrazor right now has, Stormrazor has a 90 flat and has a 80 ratio. Next patch, it will have 100 damage flat and no 80 ratio whatsoever. The only thing you gain is 0.5 second more movement speed. Now, this is a nerf because at level 1, even if you were to get Stormrazor at level 1, it's already less damage than on live servers. At level you're losing around 20 to 50 damage per proc, depending on how many items you have. This is so much damage, this is such a big DPS loss for a bit more movement speed. It's not worth it. Maybe on a champion like Jhin, it can work, but on a champion like KAISA that needs damage, it's a big nerf. For me at least. And the question is, also, why would you ever build Stormrazor when Kraken Slayer exists? There is no reason to build Stormrazor when Kraken Slayer has more damage, proc is easier to charge every 3 auto attack, and is cheaper to build than Stormrazor. The only reason why I would build Stormrazor is if I'm going for, for example, a hybrid build. In this situation, maybe I can go for this because I need a lot of AD, so I can get Q Evolution comfortably. Okay, this is an option, but apart from that, apart from hybrid, I don't think Stormrazor is a go after this patch. I really think this item is dead. At least, got nerfed. Now, before talking about the last item, which is Stattik, I need to mention the Rageblade change because Rageblade also got changed. Currently, right now, Rageblade has 30 AD, 30 AP, 25 attack speed, and is built with the tome, the axe, and a longsword. Now, with the new change, it does now 35 AD, 35 AP. Now, this is a pretty nice change. This means that if you go Kraken Slayer into RB, you can now get your Q Evolution at level 8. This is because on live servers, you would need to wait to level 10. Now, with the new changes, you can get it at level 8. This is a nice change. Now, the con. Because there is a downside to this change. Since there is no more an axe, you cannot get Q Evolution unless you fully build the Kraken Slayer and the RB. Because on live servers, what you could do is that you get your Kraken Slayer and then you build the axe, and then you go for a longsword, and then you get level 10, and you get your Q Evolution. Now, since the build path has changed and you only have a pickaxe, you cannot get Q Evolution anymore. As you can see, I don't have it. So this is the biggest con of this change. Before, you would get Q Evolution with 4,500 gold, and now you need to spend 6,000 gold to get the Q Evolution. But I still think it's a buff, and here's why. The reason why I think it's a buff is that overall, the build path of Kraken Slayer got more comfortable. Pickaxe and recurve bow are two really good items to buy, comfortable, they give more damage, and overall it's better to build this than this. And yes, I'm losing the level 10 Q Evolution, but level 10 Q Evolution is already really late. Normally, at level 10, you're pretty close to finishing your Rageblade anyway, and the laning phase is already pretty much over. A good Q Evolution is at around level 8. Level 10 is a bit late. So it's a slight buff. Again, it's a small buff. I still think it's a small buff. I don't think it's a nerf, but it's a small buff. But there is a build that came back because of the change. There is a build that got buffed, and this is Stattik Shyv into RB. Now, Stattik Shyv received a pretty nice change because now it's 300 gold cheaper. It's 2,700 gold, the price. What's interesting is that since Stattik gives you 50 AD, you will get Q Evolution at level 8. At level 8, you get Q Evolution with this build. And what's also interesting is that since Stattik is so cheap, it only costs you, I think I need to check because I don't remember the calculator quickly, it costs you only 3,575 gold. It's such a cheap Q Evolution. The cheapest Q Evolution you can have right now is by going for Dirk into Noonquiver, into Pickaxe, which gives you 3,175. So it's only 40 gold more expensive, and you get a full completed item. This is, I'm pretty sure, at least that's my thing, at least my thinking. I tested this build on live servers, on the PvE. Stattik feels really nice. Because having a Q Evolution at level 8 for such a cheap price is so good in a laning phase when you need to control the wave, when you're facing a Caitlyn, facing an MF, a Jhin, and you need to control the wave. So overall, I think that Stattik might make a comeback. Alright, that is it for the ADC changes. Now, before we go for AP, at TLDR, in my opinion, if you build Kraken Slayer into Rageblade, you get buffed. The tech with Kraken Slayer Rageblade got buffed. Slightly, but it got buffed. Stattik also got buffed. Kraken Slayer and Stattik both got buffed. Stormrazor got nerfed. And I think, personally, that Stormrazor, and the only build with Stormrazor can work is Hybrid KAISA. But I think right now, Hybrid KAISA doesn't feel good. Stormrazor got nerfed. RB got nerfed, Nash got nerfed. At this point, I don't think that you go Hybrid KAISA anymore next patch, unless you face unless your team is full AD and you need AP. I don't think you go for Hybrid KAISA. I really don't. I think you stick with crit next patch. Personally, I think. All right, let's finish off with the last change. Which is the Ludens change. Ludens is getting buffed from 90 to 95 and costs 100 gold less. Now, this is a pretty nice change. Again, APKs are getting buffed. Because now, this means that if you go Mana into Ludens, into Horizon Focus, if you compare this to Season 13, it's now 600 gold cheaper to build this build compared to Season 13. So again, another big buff for APKs. The one thing I want to rant about, because I kind of want to say my piece here, the fact that they change. So the first buff was to 100 AP. When I saw that first time, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I can build my W Evolution with only one Ludens. But then Riot said, no fun for you, and reduce it to 95. Now hear me out. If you don't believe that Riot is focusing KAISA, this should be the proof for you. This item is not strong on mages. There is zero reason for Riot to nerf it from 100 to 95. Unless you're trying to limit a single champion that would get an advantage out of this 100 AP. Yes, KAISA. I really believe that this is just Riot making sure that KAISA cannot abuse Ludens down in the bot lane. Alright, long video, I know, but I hope I explained everything, and thanks for watching, everyone. Obviously I will update the guide for 14.3, and yeah, we'll see what happens, but it's gonna be an interesting patch, for sure. Alright everyone, thanks for watching, and have a great weekend, and I'll see you all on stream today or next week. Bye bye.